Have you ever wondered why the black community votes for the Democrats every single time without fail? I'm going to tell you the main reason why that is. And I'm going to tell you why President Trump could be the first Republican candidate to gain a 30% share of the black vote, which would be the highest going back to Eisenhower. And we'll talk about that right now. Hey, my name is Kyle Suggs, and welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so that you do not miss any future content. As I mentioned before in my intro, that black people vote Democrat time and time again, going back all the way to Nixon, going back to Eisenhower. It was pretty much a done deal after Nixon. Why is that? I'm going to get into that, but I'm also going to talk to you about why President Trump has the potential to get 30% of the black vote in 2020. Crazy, right? Considering he only got 8% in 2016. Well, the reason for this is very simple. And I'm going to go over an article right here that is in the Western Journal. It came out a couple days ago. It says, Trump is poised to have the highest percentage of the black vote for any GOP candidate since Eisenhower. And again, I've been saying this for years, that if the GOP, the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, the party of Frederick Douglass, the party of civil rights, the party of everything that is we consider positive in the black community in terms of civil rights and human rights, that if they could just get a candidate who could cut through all the nonsense, who could just stop the pandering, who could just say, you know what, this is what it is, and this is what I'm going to do, without promising crazy things that are going to cause the black community to be dependent, which is what's been going on. And I have some links that I'm going to put in the show notes below of some videos that I did early on. It's why the parties never switched and the myth of the Southern strategy. These are two videos you need to see. They're well documented and they're important because the first thing you're going to hear when you talk to a Democrat or a liberal, they're going to say, well, the party switched. So what about the Southern strategy? What about the Atwater tape, whatever? All that nonsense. I have it all planned out there and you can see that and the documentation for that. I'm not going to go into all that because there's no need at this point. But the point is that the Democrats have had a stranglehold on the black community for years. And now we're seeing that many black people are now waking up to the idea that, you know what, maybe we have been bamboozled. And a lot of that comes into the economy. A lot of that has to do with other younger generation people seeing what's not working and putting that information out, like Brandon Tatum, Turning Point, Blexit, Candace Owens, and many, many, many others. And so let's go over this article right here. It's from the Western Journal, I said before, and I'm going to just go through this and I'm going to comment as we go on. It says President Donald Trump appears to be in a position to capture the highest percentage of the African-American vote of any Republican candidate since former President Dwight Eisenhower if current trends continue. In 2016, the then New York businessman famously made his pitch to black Americans asking, what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? If you're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed, what the hell do you have to lose? And see, that right there, and I can go on for an hour on this and why I'm so happy with our president and what he did on this. All right, let's just go back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a businessman, okay? If you look at the 80s, where he was dominant in the culture, he was bigger than life. I mean, everywhere you looked in the 80s, Donald Trump was the man. Black people looked up to him. His Art of the Deal, his book, his video games. I mean, he had everything. I mean, he had so much going on and he was so charismatic. He was living the lifestyle. He was living the lifestyle that the black community was looking up to. And he was a very, very popular figure in the black community. I mean, NAACP, Muhammad Ali. I mean, you go through the list. He was just prominent. Okay. So in the 90s, things went down with his casinos and so forth. We know all about that. But still, he was still pretty popular in the black community. It was only until he decided to run for president before he decided to be considered a racist by the mainstream media. And blacks, of course, go along with that because of just the culture of what they're expected to do. I'm going to get into why I feel that is the way it is. And it's a very simple thing, but you probably have never heard it before. And I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to do another video on that and explain more why I feel that way. But for now, I'm going to just go through this article and continue on. But President Trump, when he said that what do you have to lose, that was something that no one has ever said to the black community. I mean, the Democrats basically say, you know what, don't worry about it. You know, the Republicans are racist. We can, get through this if you just vote for us again, and we'll just push on through. Don't worry about the communities being so bad. Don't matter that the literacy rate in the black community is bad. Doesn't matter that the black on black crime is so bad. Doesn't matter that, that the health care and all the social benefits are stifling the growth in the community. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about the education system being so horrible. We are on your side because we're Democrats. We love you. Just be with us, whatever. That is what's been put out there for so long. And part of that is because the black community is, in a large part, unfortunately, dependent on government. And because the government is controlled, or that narrative is driven by Democrats because they believe in that big government, they're the ones that are able to form that. And the Democrats are very, very good at pushing forth that particular narrative that the Republicans are racist. George W. Bush went to the Urban League back in, I believe, in 2014. And I'll see if I can find a link to that speech. It's really good. He goes there, and because he didn't go to the NAACP and talk with them. There was a big brouhaha about that. But the NAACP at the time was talking trash about Trump. About W. And he was like, no, I'm not going to go. All right. But he went to the Urban League instead. And in this crowd was Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and so forth. It's a very good speech. And one thing he mentioned in there, he quoted somebody else. But basically, I'm trying to get this right. I said this before, but I'll make sure I get this right. He basically said that black people are, the elephant is too big for black people to swallow, but they're choking on the donkey. And I think that's a good analogy, right? So the Democrats are small enough to gnaw on, but they just can't get down. But the Republican, the elephant, is just too big to even conceive. And that's basically what's going on with the black community. And so Trump basically cuts through all that, because one thing people saw about Trump is that he was being attacked by everybody. He was being attacked by the left, by the right. He was being attacked by the establishment on both sides. And so it was almost as if he had instant credibility to a certain group, because they're looking at him and say, hey, look, he's not like Romney. He's not like McCain. And because, those guys are pretty much are partisans. They're pretty much established Republicans. He's not like them, because we knew him back in the 80s. We knew him back in the 90s. We knew back when he was rap songs were talking about him. If you want to try to be like Trump. Even Obama himself said, the American lifestyle or the American dream is to be Donald Trump back in the day. I mean, everyone knew that. And so people forget that stuff. All right. So let's go into this article again. I'm rambling, but I want to give that background, because when I give my answer toward the end as why black people are voting for Democrats, election cycle after election cycle, I want you to have that framework or that mindset in mind when I say it. Okay. So Trump didn't appear to persuade too many African Americans to take a chance on him, but he did convince some, garnering 8% of the black vote, an improvement over 2012 GOP nominee Mitt Romney, who got 6%. And in 2008, nominee John McCain got 4%. So it appears like they were increasing by 2% every election cycle. So I think Trump will do even better than all that. In states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, which Trump won by approximately 68,200 and 11,600 votes respectively, that uptick in support almost certainly helped make the difference. Let's stop here. I did a prediction video the day of election on 2016, that November. I basically went through the states where I felt, he would win. Okay. And I I can even put a link there below if you want to see it. It's not really well done, but it is there. And so in that video, I was talking about the reason why I felt Trump was going to win Pennsylvania and Michigan was because two reasons. One, because both of those states had same day elections, right? So there was no early voting. Number one. Number two, people were not voting for Hillary Clinton, all right? They were not. And so because they were going to vote for Hillary Clinton, that was going to give a swing to Donald Trump. Regardless of whether or not they liked Trump or not, they were going to show up for Hillary Clinton. And it doesn't take much of a turnout for black people to swing the election one way or the other. And so this is an example of why Detroit and Philadelphia had low turnouts. And because of that, the entire states between Michigan and Pennsylvania ended up going to Trump. And so they're talking about it here in a way, but that's exactly what happened. Okay, Dwight Eisenhower, the last non-politician to be elected president until Trump, was the most successful Republican candidate among African Americans in the post-World War II era, winning 39% of the vote in 1956. The following year, the war hero would prove African Americans' faith in him was well placed when he ordered the 101st Airborne Division into Little Rock, Arkansas to enforce the Supreme Court decision in Brown versus the Board of Education, desegregating the nation's schools. Now, the important thing here is that Eisenhower backed up it up with action, right? So people voted for Eisenhower and he backed up that decision with action. And one thing I can say right now is that what Trump is doing is he's backing up what he said back in 2016, 2015, what you had to lose. He's backing it up with actual action. I mean, I can go through a litmus test of things here. I'm going to do a separate video on the things he's done for the black community, but he's done a bunch, particularly in HBCUs, historically black universities, okay? These institutions have been benefited by Trump, and more so by Trump than any other president in recent memory. Okay, Obama certainly didn't do anything for HBCUs. In fact, he gutted a lot of the programs, a lot of the Pell Grants were gutted under Obama. Okay, but President Trump has done so much for them. I was going to do a separate video on that, but I haven't gotten around to it. But the point is, that's just one aspect. Then you talk about some of the pardons that he's done. You talk about some of the prison reform that he's done, the judicial reform, the things he's done with the economy and the things he's done with that. I mean, the unemployment rate for the black community is at an all-time low, okay? Jobs are accessible. He's bringing jobs back. He's securing the border. The border is one of the biggest things that impact the black community because low-wage jobs are coming into our country illegally, and they're competing for, guess what? Jobs that black people are also competing for, pushing us out of our communities, pushing us out of the market, and causing more hardship on our community than necessary because these people don't belong here because they have come across the border illegally. We're not talking about port of entry. We're talking about hopping over a fence in the middle of the night. That's not legal immigration, okay? That is illegal immigration. Okay, so anyway, off of that, let's go back to the article. So it says here that Ike's Vice President Richard Nixon would go on to tally a relatively strong percent of the black. Let me see. Here we go. I'm sorry. All right, we'll go on to tally a relatively strong percent of the black vote in his losing presidential bid against Massachusetts Senator John Kennedy in 1960. Okay, in the links I'm going to put below in the Southern Strategy video, you'll see also how Nixon did a lot for the black community. And see, if you look back through history, you'll see that the Republican Party was the party that was doing the things for black people. You know, the Republican Party was founded as a civil rights platform. It was founded to end slavery. It came out of the fact that the Whigs and the Democrats were basically wrestling with the notion of slavery. The Whigs were indecisive. They didn't have a real position on it. Democrats obviously wanted it because they were the slaveholders. And the Republican Party came out of the Whigs because people were frustrated. Abolitionists came out, and the Whigs, people who were anti-slavery in the Whigs, they came out and formed the Republican Party. And ever since that point, the Republican Party has always been for civil rights. And, that's one thing that doesn't get taught by, history. And unfortunately, the Republican Party doesn't tout their own history. I think Trump is doing a decent job, but I think even he could do a little better job touting some of that. I think he will a little bit later on. But right now, the action that he's doing with his policies and things he's doing anyway, I believe is causing an impact, and it's going to affect the voting base in a drastic way, I think. Since that election, African American support for Republican candidates has hovered mostly around 10% or lower. However, the prospects are looking better for Trump going into 2020. A July Fox News poll found the president's approval rating among African Americans at 22%. 22%. These kind of numbers would drive Democrats insane because it only takes about 15% to basically prevent them from winning any election, which is why I've been saying for a long time that they need the legal immigrant vote to supplant the black vote, because the black vote is eventually going to come away from that, and they're going to have to make up that difference. So that's why they're pushing illegal immigration so hard, because they can't win an election otherwise. I say this in a kind of snarky way, but it's true that illegal immigrants are pushing black people to the back of the bus, and it's sad. And unfortunately, many of these shuck and jive leaders are helping drive the bus or even helping them onto the bus. And that's a shame, because you're doing a disservice to not only our country, you're doing a disservice to people that you're supposed to be representing. Hello, Congressional Black Caucus, do you hear me? I mean, come on. All right, so let's go down a little further here. Recent daily tracking polls by Rasmussen has shown that approval running as high as 34%. Lest you dismiss these numbers as coming from conservative numbers, an NAACP poll released 19 months into Trump's presidency already showed him at 21% approval among African Americans. And so, Trump's campaign manager, Brad Pascale, told Real Clear Politics in June that he believes his candidate can more than quadruple his 8% support in the coming election. And I believe that. I think Trump has so much more he has so much more in his plans that he's going to put out there, and he's going to do it in a way that's going to be hard hitting, and he's going to do it in a way that's going to be hopefully acceptable for blacks to really digest, because it's still very difficult for blacks to deal with Republicans, and it's hard for blacks to really trust the Republican Party based on what they've been told and the myths that's been told, and the Republican Party having the inability to articulate the counter to that. It's just a tough job. But Trump is the kind of person, he has the kind of street cred still to get that kind of message across, and I believe he's going to be able to do that. Black conservative commentator Brandon Tatum anticipates that Trump will do much better among African Americans in 2020 than he did in 2016, not only because of his record, but also because the Democrat Party's lack of positive agenda. I think Donald Trump is a very unique position, Tatum told Western Journal. Trump is doing a lot of great things on paper for African Americans, as we mentioned before. He has advocated for the success of black folks. You see unemployment is at an all-time low. Black people are working more. Black women are doing better. All these things are happening and occurring under President Trump. Tatum pointed to Trump's policies of cutting taxes and securing the border as other issues that resonate among many African Americans. I'm telling you right now, illegal immigration resonates so much in the black community, and they're really conflicted because they understand what he's saying, but at the same time, they don't really want to say out loud that they support Trump or even acknowledge Trump. And so they may not vote for Trump, but they probably won't vote for the Democrat candidate either. If they go off to a third party candidate, that's still a net positive for the Republicans. And that is what I think is going to happen, is that the majority of blacks are going to the majority of blacks, I think a big majority of blacks are going to consider not voting at all or voting for Trump. Either way is a plus gain for the Republican Party and for President Trump. You have Candace Owens. She says here that in her tweet, one of my favorite public speakers of all time is Officer Tatum. Can't wait to hit the stage with him at Blexit. Blexit is a black exit movement. It's like walk away movement. It's an awareness where they're trying to get people to understand that you don't have to vote Democrat, okay? And Candace Owens last week did a testimony at the House Judiciary Committee or Oversight Committee, whatever it was, and I'm gonna do a video on that. You've already seen what she said. They were trying to basically ramrod her with accusing her of one way and then not giving her a chance to answer. And then you had Jim Jordan and Meadows giving up time so that she could defend herself. It's a very good clip. I'll talk more about that. But there's a battle going on, people. There really is. And let's see what we have here. So, yeah, we're talking about polling here. And Herman Cain said this. He said that, he says here that Herman Cain ran for the presidency in 2016, I believe. 2012. He said, CNN exit polling is not reliable, Herman Cain said. If you are asking black people and you're coming from a black precinct, some of them aren't going to tell you the truth. Okay, and that's true. They just won't tell you. The Trump economy is excellent. Robert Johnson, the founder of BET, he said that I think the economy is doing great and it's reaching populations that they heretofore had very bad problems in terms of jobs and employment and opportunities that come with employment. So African American unemployment is at its lowest level. He credited Trump with tax cuts and helping create current economic climate and so forth. So, all these things are happening. And with Brad Pascale, if the campaign manager for the Trump campaign, Brad Pascale, thinks that, I feel he has something in mind and that they're going to launch out at some point that's going to be really impactful, that's going to really, really help with this. I think as we get closer and closer to the election cycle, I think people like Candace Owens and the Brexit movement and the Walk Away campaign and the culture that's happening with the rap videos that are happening now with the MAGA challenge and stuff, we're seeing more and more young African Americans, young black people, young Latinos and so forth coming out and saying, you know what, you don't have to be a Democrat. These people are insane with these policies. They're ridiculous. They don't fall in line with our values, and we don't want any parts of it. So now, you want to know the reason why I feel that black people are voting Democrat time and time again. And it's a really basic principle, but there's more to it, but I'm going to say it right here. The reason why black people are voting for Democrats time and time again is because of their particular worldview. Their worldview is this. Okay, so they have the idea that they have to vote for a party or a entity that's going to help benefit them economically, but also it's going to be a system that's going to help them to provide for their families. But at the same time, they have an issue with their own economic growth. Okay, so yes, they're voting for the Democrat Party because they are entitled to various things, but also because they feel that that there's no other option. That there's no other option to vote, because if they vote for the Republican Party, they're going to be voting for a party of racists. And really, that's really the core there. And the fact is that they feel that their worldview is that the government is going to help them, that the government is going to provide for them, it's going to look out for them. But at the same time, they don't understand that it was the government that kept them in bondage and slavery. It was the government that's done a lot of bad things to black people. But yet at the same time, they can't go for the Republicans because even though they're opposite of that view, they view them as being racist. And so really it comes down to they're not being able to identify and relate their personal worldview that they believe that there is a God, that there's a creator. Black people feel this. They feel that personal responsibility is a good thing. Deep down, they feel that owning a firearm is a good thing to protect yourself. They feel that lower taxes are good things. They understand that family is important. Now, I know you may see broken families now, but the fact is, traditionally speaking, black people cherish the family, the nuclear family, and they also traditionally cherish church and going to church and worshiping a God. And so that kind of worldview is counter to what the Democrats are pushing for. It's the exact opposite of all that. But they have to feel that they have to vote for the Democrats because they're the ones that are providing for them and helping them to move forward. So when Bush said that, they're choking on the donkey and the elephant is just too big to even try, that's what I'm talking about. And it's a much bigger talk about that. I'm going to do a video on that. But that's the main reason why blacks vote for Democrats, simply because they feel that most Republicans are racist and the Democrat Party is looking out for them. So tell me what you think about this. This is kind of long, but I'm just curious what you think about what I thought and said. And so do you think that President Trump will be able to get 20%, 30% of the black vote, the biggest turnout since Eisenhower? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like the content on this channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right, please hit that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so that you don't miss any future content. And if you, again, share this video with your friends and check out the links below. And I really am curious to find out what you guys think. And if you check out some videos I have right here, you can stay plugged in, and I will see you guys next time.